from the College by the Lake, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Local, regional, national, and international guests discussing the issues and topics affecting the way you live are on Forum, the North Idaho College Public Forum, with your host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart.
One of the exciting things about doing this program for 21 years is that we seem to never run out of, from time to time, to have a totally different topic than we've done in the past, although some issues, of course, are repeated with different guests. And today is one of those occasions in which we can deal with something we have not dealt with in the 21 years. You see a lot of shows on what we call cooking shows and foods, and so we haven't done that before. But the emphasis that we will be given today is an organization that's come into being in North Idaho, in Sandpoint, as a matter of fact. And it's an incubator that is there, and they have a number of different businesses that we will identify briefly. But actually today we want to talk about the foods that are processed there, and these foods come from the recipes and the work of a number of residents of North Idaho, and through this center they've been able to market their products. And we find this somewhat exciting as an industry in North Idaho, and therefore we shall proceed with that topic. And I want to welcome to the program four guests today. To my far left is Elizabeth O'Brien, and she's with us with her products today on fruitcakes, and I believe you call those Bobby's Fruitcakes. And next to her is Diane Williams, who has brought jellies and jams with her, and I believe you call your products Simply Wild.
Right.
And welcome to our program. And next to her is Joanne Sandifer, who is involved with barbecue sauces as a product, and Joanne,
enchilada sauce.
Yes, and we welcome you to the program. And then we have with us today also the director of what is known as the Bonner Business Center, which is located in Sandpoint, Idaho, and that is John Thelbar, who, as I indicated, coordinates all these activities. And John, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I'd like to start the program today with the director, and so you can, John, identify for us how this particular center came into existence. And I know you have with you a photograph today. We can also see an outline of the center itself. Tell us historically, how did this idea come about?
Well, the Bonner Business Center today is the culmination of about 4 long years of hard work. Approximately 4 years ago, the director of the Hayden incubator, Jim Deffenbaugh, had the option of either expanding his incubator in Hayden, which was then full, or deciding to sponsor another incubator somewhere else. And he had the vision to get very involved at that point in time in rural economic development, even though at that time I'm sure Hayden was fairly rural, but Sandpoint was even more rural. And the following 3 years were spent in primarily raising the money, doing the conceptual idea for the incubator, and getting it built. It broke ground a year ago in July, and we opened for business at the end of January of this year.
And you should say January 1992, because this program won't air until 1993.
January 1992, thank you. There are approximately 500 incubators in the United States, so this phenomenon is not a new one. And each incubator tends to take on the flavor of the environment in which it is located. So there will be a ceramics orientation to North Carolina, an electronics orientation to Silicon Valley, and so on. In the conceptualization of the incubator in Sandpoint, one of the things we do well up there is grow things. And the specialty foods industry is a huge industry. It's a $5 billion industry. It's growing very fast. And we had the advantage of looking at the kitchen facility in Spokane, which was the very first in the United States. They had already developed their operation there. And so we worked very closely with Tom Showalter, who's the director of the Spokane Incubator and Kitchen. And we had the advantage of essentially going to school on their development, being the very first in the United States. And we decided early on that we really wanted to focus on creating an industry in Sandpoint that was not dependent on timber, not dependent on tourism, something that would diversify our economy and help with economic development. And so we decided that as part of this incubator, which is in total 11,000 square feet, we would create a 1,500 square foot kitchen, get as much of the equipment base in the kitchen as possible, to rent out to individuals who had recipes that they wanted to commercialize and get into business.
In this center that you have that is defined as the Bonner Business Center, how many businesses do you have there now, or what is the kind of economic benefit that is generated by this center?
We have the capacity outside of the kitchen of hosting approximately 12 to 15 different businesses. We have 6 manufacturing bays of about 800 square feet each, and we have 6 to 10 offices that we rent, each of which could be an individual business. We're about 2/3 full at the moment, and the variety of businesses that we have had in the incubator cover the gamut from computer software development to manufacturing of dental products, and it's a very exciting place. It is exclusively for entrepreneurs who want to start a business, and the nature of an incubator is there is business counseling on site, which is myself. We have business equipment, a variety of business equipment that the owners don't have to spend their capital on. They can use our business equipment, so it helps them get into business by saving capital in that way. And incubators have proven to be very effective over the years. They've been around since 1959, and many of the studies on incubators have shown that 8 out of 10 businesses who start, or at least spend a portion of their formative years in an incubator, succeed 8 out of 10, whereas out in the real world, 8 out of 10 small businesses will usually fail. So the differences are dramatic.
I hope that our director can hear me, and if he can, I would like for him to show a photograph that you've brought with you of the center in Bonner County, because you've been describing some of the different businesses located. This is a very impressive building that you have and a center, and yes, we've got that on the screen now. And this is located in Sandpoint. Could you tell us just a little bit about this layout of, I know that you have the kitchen and all the food processing, but all your incubator is housed in this one building, is that correct?
Yes, it is. It's a fully enclosed 11,000 square foot building, and on the screen there to the left are the manufacturing bays, the individual manufacturing bays, and to the right are the offices that we rent. The kitchen is just to the left of the entrance, which is right there in the middle of the screen, and again, it's about 1,500 square feet. And in the development of this kitchen concept, it was a tremendous amount of effort by a number of volunteers to figure out what kind of equipment should we have in the incubator. We could only afford $60,000 of equipment, and anyone who knows a restaurant knows that $60,000 does not go very far. Mm-hmm. So we had to be very careful in getting equipment in this kitchen that would help a broad variety of potential specialty food processors. And so we spent countless hours using some experts and consultants as well.
Now they come, I'm going to have to hurry because
Sure.
of time, but they come, I know you have 3 members of that particular part of the incubator here today.
Right.
They come with their ideas or products, and you help them with that process of packaging and selling it. Do they actually produce the product right there?
Yes, they produce it right there, and I must mention our part-time kitchen manager, Karen Schubert, who was unable to be here today, who's a very integral part in this operation. She's a certified dietitian, graduate of the University of Idaho, knows the processing side of this very, very well, can help people with a recipe, with their configuration, with different ingredients, with their batch processing, and she's just a very knowledgeable lady and very helpful.
Thank you, John. I wish we had more time, and maybe we can at some other show talk about some of the other products that are coming out of this and the employment that it is producing in North Idaho. But I'm going to turn to our other guest, and I welcome again Elizabeth O'Brien. And Elizabeth, you have brought with you today, and I'm going to kind of serve as the individual who's going to show the products today. You've brought with you, if I can put this up here, again, describe the kind of fruitcake you're talking about, and I also have a second shot of one that's not wrapped, and so our viewers can see what it looks like. I guess I would start by asking you to tell us what this product is and how it's selling.
It's a wonderful fruitcake, and it's selling very well. I'm really pleased. Even people who don't like fruitcake eat this fruitcake. They protest. I force feed everybody who comes in the house. And no, thank you, I don't like fruitcake. And then as they reach for another piece, not bad for fruitcake.
Had you been doing this? Is this a recipe that you've had a long time?
Well, the reason it's called Baba's Fruitcake, it was Mother's recipe, and that's what the girls called Mother. So when I decided to go commercial, I didn't know what to call it, and they said, Baba's Fruitcake.
Now, without this economic center that has been located in Sandpoint, you would not be able to produce this
Could
like
not.
this.
Could not, because all food products have to be made in a commercial kitchen, and there was no such place.
Now, as you discovered this and got involved, do you do this by yourself, or do you have other workers that help you with producing this? And at what level now are you selling them in kind of volume?
Pretty much I do it myself right now. And the volume this year, I've been really delighted. I've sold several hundred batches of the fruitcake, and I'm really delighted. I sell it all over the state.
So it's not just North Idaho anymore, it's
No, I send it to Mountain Home. There's a gal down there that does baskets that the service people like to send home, and they want everything made in North Idaho or in Idaho. And then there's another basket place in Boise and one in Sandpoint.
Now, how long have you been commercially producing?
Well, commercially just since the kid. I think I was maybe the first
one
cook
of our
in
first
there.
clients, yes,
Yes, I was so
absolutely.
excited
So like you're
because
saying-
this can be made ahead of time, and the more it ages, the better it is.
And for our viewers, we're actually taping this program in November 1992, so it's been less than a year. At this success rate, are you anticipating that this might expand beyond Idaho, sold in other places? Or,
Oh, could easily.
and that you could be expanding the employees that you would need. So I guess what I'm hearing from this whole process, what John told us earlier, is that we're talking about a possible growing industry that could
definitely.
employ a number
Very
of people.
definitely.
And I assume you've been helped with the staff they have on the packaging and marketing, because that becomes part of the selling point too, does it not?
Yes, and it's just wonderful to have both John and Karen there. You can just, whatever question you have, if they don't know, they know where to find out.
You have instant consultants.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That is
Yeah.
great.
Great.
One other question, then we'll go to the next product and our next guest. In serving this particular fruitcake, do you recommend it on certain occasions or with certain types of meals?
Personally, I like it anytime, but it's wonderful with a glass of grape juice, fermented or otherwise.
Okay. Let's go back to our other guest, Diane Williams, who we introduced earlier as the owner of the products called Simply Wild. And I understand, Diane, yours are mostly jellies and jams. And so you've also brought some products that I'm going to reach over and get here, if we can get those up on camera, this particular one. Would you go through, and you brought 5, I'm just going to hold up a couple here, but would you tell us about your product?
Basically, we make all wild fruit preserves and jellies. These are all hand-picked fruits that we forage in the woods and mountains of North Idaho. We have 5 flavors: huckleberry, elderberry, raspberry, rosehip apple, and strawberry. And if anybody's ever seen a wild strawberry, yes, we are on our hands and knees picking the berries because they're pretty minuscule. This basically was an outgrowth. Actually, my husband and I do the business together. We have one other gentleman that helps us make the jam and pick the berries.
I noticed on your labels here, too, that you have a little history of those, and people can find out about those from when they purchase.
Right. We kind of talk about the Northern Rocky region and the fact that it's a fresh product. I think what differentiates us from another huckleberry jam company is all our products are made fresh. We don't freeze the berries. We don't put them away and make them at our leisure. We are on a tight production schedule once the berries start in June, all the way through the fall. And we constantly are making them fresh. We pick, and every couple days we go into the kitchen and make our product.
So this would be like a family going out and picking berries, coming home and immediately making them into jellies or
Right.
jams.
Basically what we like to do, I guess, is recapture, when we were all young and we picked berries and you brought them home and Mom made jam or pie with them, and there's a real taste difference from the fresh berries, and that's what we really aimed for, and that's kind of how we've marketed our product, and plus coming out with a different variety of flavors, not just the huckleberry, which everybody else seems to be doing, I think helped us a lot.
And so you don't have a lot of the artificial ingredients that one finds.
And it also helps in the sugar content. We can use much less sugar because the fruit still has a lot of sugar intact in itself. So it really helps in that. And you can really taste the berry flavor as opposed to it just tasting sweet like a lot of jams do.
When Elizabeth was talking about her success, how long now have you been with the center and making your product?
Well, we started in June of this year, 1992, and actually we had a really wacky season weather-wise this year, and all the berries, we were several months early on the berries, so we got started selling a lot earlier than we had planned. We weren't really planning on hitting the market until basically for the holiday season, and we were able to actually catch the tail end of summer because we had a lot of product produced already. And it actually took off a lot more than I ever thought it would.
But give us a little result of where you're at now.
We're in 4 states right now.
Is that right? Would you identify?
We're in Idaho, a number of stores in Sandpoint and Coeur d'Alene. I'm in Seattle, Spokane, a couple stores in Portland, Oregon, and we are retailing back in Ohio, which is where my husband and I are originally from.
So it is really taking off. I mean, this is
it's pretty amazing.
Half a year.
Yeah, we're really shocked. I mean, we were planning on growing the business very slowly, and it's just taken off.
Do you have other employees now?
No, we actually, well, like everyone else, we have other jobs. So
Sure.
We do have one gentleman that we aren't under contract with, but of course that's pretty much subsided now. We basically go in and for 4 months do our thing. But I do anticipate, I think, over the course of time of at least hiring 1 or 2 full-time seasonal people. I think we're going to need them.
If you're already in 4 states, you may wind up with more employees than
right.
Than you anticipate. Joanne, you're next with us, and again, we introduced you earlier with the different sauces. I'm going to reach over again and show our viewers here in a moment. Here's one of your sauces. I'm going to get the other one because they're very different kinds. And would you explain to our viewers these 2 products?
There's the enchilada sauce, which I developed myself for our restaurant that we used to have about 20 years ago, and also the barbecue sauce, which I developed also for the restaurant and for my own taste. And we got out of the restaurant business because we felt we would be better off raising our children than running a restaurant. And ever since, people have been asking me for all my sauces or go back in the restaurant business. And I did not want to go back into the restaurant business, so I started searching for a place where I could produce my sauces. And about 2 years before they opened the center up there, I had been looking. And I heard originally about their new place from right here at NIC, from the culinary arts class, and then from another friend. So I ran up there immediately.
Yes, she did.
And I started cooking my sauces there.
Would you tell us your success story? We've heard 2 that are very impressive with a short period of time. And are you able to sell a lot of the sauces at this time?
It's picking up slowly. It's really starting to steamroll now on the enchilada sauce because I have no competition. I started, I think, when I first got the first batches out was in May of 1992 when I put them on the market. And I have them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 stores here in North Idaho. And I'm going to go over to Spokane here shortly because I have a store over there to get into. People have been wanting me to put it over there because they want to get it. And it's, I'm going up every week now, having to resupply a couple of the stores where it's really taken off well. And I expect that much in Spokane, if not better.
One thing I want to do to make this also like a cooking show in some ways, I noticed on the back of both of your bottles that you have with you, recipes that what this sauce goes with. Would you take time to just give us some idea of the kinds of recipes that this sauce would just be so helpful? And of course, again, if they buy that, they can see at least in each case one recipe.
And like with the barbecue sauce, I have a recipe on there for country-style barbecued ribs, which I've used. It's a recipe of my own that I've used for years and years. Main point with barbecue sauce, the thing that makes it the best, is marinating the meat before you add the barbecue sauce. So you can cook this in the oven and baste it with the barbecue sauce, or just put the barbecue sauce on it and bake it so that you can have it all winter long. You don't have to wait for the barbecue out in the summertime. Put it out there. And I have found there's 2 different ways, either with baked potatoes and corn on the cob, which is excellent, and a green salad, or with potatoes au gratin, which is absolutely wonderful. And there's a little bit of squash. There's some people that don't like squash, but my kids in particular. Or you could use just the peas and like a cottage cheese with pineapple salad. Goes excellent with it. And on the enchilada sauce, I fix my, of course, and a restaurant, and I fix my own recipes of the Spanish rice and the refried beans, guacamole, and sometimes I throw on a chile relleno. And I did it one time, instruct a class on Mexican food. So I do have some recipes available for those.
And so there are a lot of different meals that can come out of
A lot of meals.
simply one or both of these sauces itself.
A lot of meals. You can mix that with a lot of things. It's like with your barbecue sauce. It can be any meat that you want. You can use. It's just it marinates your meat.
That's a very important
That's the
point.
very important point, is marinating your meat first. And that's why I put recipes on the bottles there, so it would give people a start.
Now, with these two different sauces you have, is this the same recipe of that particular sauce, or does the recipes change by the jar? It's the same recipe?
Oh, it's the same recipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Diane, I want to come back to you because one thing I did not do when I was asking you the series of questions about your jellies and your jams, do you have any particular muffins or types of things to put the jelly and jams on that you have found more delightful? And since you have 5 different types, could you give us some kind of connection like Joanne has done?
Well, I can tell you, my husband and I particularly enjoy it. Of course, it's primarily a breakfast food, but you can eat jam on crackers or jam on toast or whenever. I have a couple of funny stories. I mean, I have people that literally eat out of the jar. I mean, they start tasting it, and next thing you know, they've eaten half the jar and they haven't even put it on anything. Or they run out of crackers and they'll run to the store to go buy another box of crackers, or they'll have 5 pieces of toast in the morning instead of the 1. So it has that effect on people. You just start eating it and you keep making excuses to eat more. I particularly like to use it in the morning on pancakes as instead of syrup, using that sometimes mixed with yogurt. Just if you buy plain yogurt, you can mix that in, or you can use it as a topping with the yogurt on pancakes. It's kind of something different for breakfast.
Is there in particular one of your 5
flavors
that is better on pancakes or on
Oh,
toast?
not necessarily. It kind of goes by taste. Of course, the jellies are a more delicate flavor, and the jams and preserves are a little heartier flavor, and some, of course, have seeds like the raspberry. So it really is, an individual's taste. The rose hip and apple I like particularly because it's a real different flavor, it's a different color, and it's very high in vitamin C. So I kind of like to eat that a lot for my daily dose.
John, we were only able to bring 3 of the people who have a special product in your center, but there are other food products that you haven't. You brought a couple with you, and I was going to have us to talk about those, and I'll reach again and get those so that you can see that there are different products. Tell us first about this one here that I'm going to show right here.
Well, we have about a dozen users, fairly regular users of the kitchen at the incubator. This particular product is a Bloody Mary mix. And it's produced by a company, D&E Enterprises, the Clack family, and they also produce a marinara sauce as well. So they're very active at the center.
And here's another product you've brought along with you.
And this is a pie filling. It happens to be a raspberry pie filling that's produced by Tony Crawford, whose company is called Tony's Edible Arts. And if you've ever had one of Tony's pies that she makes at the Sandpoint Festival, Huckleberry Peach Pie is delicious. And so there really isn't a pie filling in a jar on the shelves, and so she's trying to fill that niche in the marketplace. And she also makes a wonderful chocolate candy, variety of chocolate candies. So she has a couple of businesses that she has going on.
One thing I've been impressed with, I would assume the products are very tasty and very good, but just looking at them as you brought them in already processed, that the labels and all that is very, very attractive and very professional. In relation to that, we talked earlier on the show that there are certain consultants and so forth, but the actual manufacturing of the labels and all that, does that take place in Sandpoint, or is that all done by different companies?
Well, it's a separate industry almost by itself. The marketing side of specialty foods is extremely important. Early on, we were given advice by some consultants that many buyers of specialty foods don't even taste the product. They just look at the label to see how it looks. So the labeling is very, very important. And there are any number of consultants, design, graphics consultants in Sandpoint or all over the country actually that can help with the labels. And it's an upfront cost for people getting into specialty foods. It's extremely important.
Elizabeth, I'll come back to you because, again, I mentioned during your product that was labeled or is packaged so nicely. Who do you get to do that for you? Do you have is that in Sandpoint, or do you contract with another company to provide?
That's in Sandpoint, and I do it.
You do it yourself?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Every now and then I have maybe one other person help me. but I do an awful lot of it myself.
And I noticed in addition to the package, you have a little card on here with the printing and all. Is that done by
That's done in Sandpoint.
all? So everything in your product comes right out of Sandpoint and Bonner County. Diane, in your case, is that the same situation?
Pretty much. I have a pretty strong background in marketing, so I kind of was a little ahead of the game, I think, for a lot of the food producers in the kitchen. But basically, my husband and I had a concept of what we wanted the label to look like, and we had the hexagonal jars, so that kind of had to determine a lot in the design. But we went to a graphic designer in Sandpoint with our concept of the label and went through a number of drawings and months of fine-tuning. And then we applied the color. I mean, we determined the colors on the label ourselves and took it to a Sandpoint printer. And we use recycled paper. I specifically sought a printer that would utilize a label that was made of recycled paper and that would bring in a soy ink for us to use for the printing, because we're very much conscious of that. And they were more than willing to work with us, and so yes, we get our labels printed in Sandpoint.
But it's the reason all businesses there is this overlapping and multiplying of the people and the economy involved. So others are benefiting economically. Also, Joanne, is everything processed for you in Sandpoint?
No, because I'm one of the oddballs. I don't live in Sandpoint or the area. I live down here in Rathdrum, so I have to commute back and forth. It was easier for me to get my labels down here.
But there is a company here that does your labels for you.
Yeah.
And did they assist you in the design?
Well, I did the design. I was doing it specifically to be different and plain, so that it stood out from all the labels that were so confusing on the shelf. So far, it's worked pretty good.
It's so interesting to see how you're so personally involved in the design, and it shows a lot of talent that you have. Do any of you, we're about out of time, but do any of you have any plans to expand into any other food product or food processing?
Yes, I do. I'm getting ready to do labels for my salsa, but what I want to get into is a Mexican food frozen entree, to where it can be heated in a microwave. This is a little bit down the road. We got to get everything else going real well first, but this is what I'm working towards, and this is what I'm planning on.
And you will work with the center as you process this particular area. Do either one of you have equal plans?
Yes, actually, we're kind of getting into the whole wild food market, all wild foraged foods. We do have morel mushrooms that are already dried. We're working on the packaging for that. And we'll probably do some syrups and possibly some vinegars and maybe way down the line some teas. So,
with that, to bring our permanent conclusion, I have got the signal that we're out of time. I want to thank all four of you for being with us today, and it's exciting to see here in North Idaho an expansion into another economic area. Food processing is a very, very exciting one, and we thank you for coming and bringing your products and spending this time with us.
thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed our program. I'd like to invite you to be with us again next week at the same time, when we will discuss what we believe to be an exciting issue. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
The North Idaho College Public Forum was videotaped live from the studios of Telemedia Services on the campus of North Idaho College for viewing at this more appropriate time. We invite you to join us again next week for another all-new edition of the North Idaho College Public Forum on this public television station.